After all the terrible press that Diablo Immortal has gotten, I was genuinely surprised that they let me play for a whole 30 minutes before they jump scared me with the usual free-to-play nonsense. Unfortunately, the next few hours were not so kind. Today I'm playing Diablo Immortal for the first time ever, to see if Blizzard's most cursed game
Is this an out-of-season April Fool's joke?
has learned the error of its ways. Right off the bat, I got something to complain about. How is a game made primarily for the tiny mobile phone in your pocket gonna eat up a whole 80 gigabytes of space? Luckily, the character creator answers my questions, as they seemingly went above and beyond to deliver two extraordinarily similar, but still different opening cutscenes for each class and gender. But I'm not going to sit here and hate on their attention to detail. In fact, the character creator itself is surprisingly detailed for a mobile game, with a nice selection of hairstyles and sliders for everything, like cheekbone position. On a serious note, I'll never really understand why games have elaborate face customizations for a character that's like this big on your screen, but the portrait that appears every time you do anything? Sorry, that's a preset. As someone who played Diablo 3 in their younger years, I go with one of the newer classes, Tempest, and off I go. Now, my entire understanding of Diablo Immortal comes from memes and snappy YouTube titles. But I gotta say, my first impressions, pretty solid. Keep in mind, Blizzard was the same company that back in Diablo 3 made you pay an additional $15 on top of your $60 game to unlock the Necromancer class. In contrast, Immortal lets you play from any of the list for the same $0. My class gameplay is no slouch either, with a focus on summoning these little ghosts with certain abilities and utilizing their positioning with others. And look, if all this game was Diablo on your cute little mobile phone, it'd pass with flying colors. But as we will soon see, bad reputations don't just come out of nowhere. That said, it's got all the bells and whistles of a full-fledged Diablo game. 4 main abilities with a roster of skills to select from, grid tile inventory system, gear and salvaging that'll keep you in the grind, and of course, the all-important inclusion of a man named Deckard Cain. And it's the last time I'll make this joke, but 80 gigabytes makes a lot more sense when you realize that even the bottom feeder corner NPCs in the main town are for some reason fully voiced.
I'm sorry, Beltram.
But after a 30-minute honeymoon period, the true nature of the game begins to rear its head. After completing the first main quest, you get this really weird congratulations screen, please continue playing, that feels like something you'd see after completing a demo and being asked to purchase the full game. But that's just the start, because the next pop-up is a daily login reward, granting you 3 pieces of legendary equipment if you, like some Pavlovian dog, habitualize yourself to log in 7 separate days. Then I am immediately directed to open the codex, revealing... oh dear. Well, funny enough, you can't actually open it at this point, but it is some very heavy-handed foreshadowing.
Foreshadowing is a narrative device in which...
And of course, as the game fully opens up its online features, with other players now roaming about, we get the online game classic, thousands of gold-selling spam bots polluting the chat box. And what do you know? I get a notification that I've unlocked a one-time bundle. The 800% extra value beginner's bundle, priced at a truly microtransaction of just $0.99. But let's pause on dunking on the monetary schemes. As the self-proclaimed Diablo experience brought to mobile, there are unique changes that Immortal brings to the table. For instance, there's no mana, which makes for a simpler, faster gameplay experience, better suited for the modern, mobile, brain-rotted audience. This focus on snappy, immediate dopamine does have some weird consequences though, like forcing you to use the auto-spawn get me to the next main event portal at the end of every encounter. If you, like me, chose to waste the 5 seconds walking back to and leaving from the main entrance, you'd find that the encounter fully resets, as if you never did it. and that the portal brings you to the exact same place that you would have left from. But hey, who can complain about free Diablo, complete with cool new abilities and actually engaging fights? But exactly 1 hour from the time I started, I get jump scared by the Battle Pass. I don't think I need to explain a Battle Pass to anyone, complete daily and weekly missions to progress and get rewards, but Diablo's iteration has some suspicious quirks to the formula. You probably already know the free tiers and premium pass system, but Diablo has two different paid tiers, for $5 and for $15. And even though I can't really understand the value of each of these rewards, the keywords all characters on the more expensive pass gives me a clue on how the cheaper option will cheat you out. But now on to our first little dungeon, and the first taste of group play. But Blizzard must have known that I was keeping track of the time it takes for the game to hit you with microtransactions, because here I have to sit through a long 4-minute queue, which becomes even longer as one player is AFK, is eventually kicked, but finally we're live. And I know I'm starting to sound like a sponsored shill, but the gameplay's pretty dang good. Flashy and chunky group clear, mixed with bosses with well telegraphed and deliberately designed attack patterns. And of course, the pinnacle of any ARPG, the ever-progressing march of better and better loot. Look, I've reviewed some really stinker mobile games on my time here on YouTube, so I know trash when I see it. There are undoubtedly some shady signs, but I would not call Diablo Immortal lazy. But by beating the first dungeon, I get another one-time shop bundle, and now we're down to 570% extra value. But since they've directed us to the shop, let's take a look at some of the more permanent offerings. First off, these aren't in dollar values, but instead in eternal orbs, meaning this hollowed bundle would run you about $15. And it's only 80% extra value! Diablo Immortal is almost comical in how it's structured. It baits you in with extremely normal gameplay, randomized encounters in the open world, massive cities offering 100 ways to improve your character, then introduces the most vile, obviously exploitable monetization scheme of all time. Like here, with these Elder Rifts. Gems and socketing have always been a means to empower your Diablo character. It would be a shame then if acquiring legendary gems required you to spend extremely limited legendary crests, of which, of course, the first hit is free. So you do your Greater Rift, which you'd be doing in a real Diablo game anyway, and bam, instant improvement. But keep a tab on those crests. We'll be checking on those again later. Now, while the presence of other players is a reassuring sign of the game's life, there was this strange large blob of random character named hooligans sitting around and cluttering my screen with their animal companions. And strangely enough, one of the beasts managed to sneak into one of my cutscenes. But back to the seesaw of good gameplay and harsh monetization. We infiltrate this coven of gothic women and lay waste to their leader, only to be offered the boon of plenty, offering additional login rewards for 30 days for the low price of $10. Then we get 20 minutes uninterrupted of good old-fashioned local area questing, narrative progression, combat set pieces, all to be offered not one, not two, but 3 limited time bundles. This time including a $26 login reward system, and now we're all the way down to 330% extra value. But hey, offering nearly $50 worth of limited items to a player who's barely put in more than 2 hours isn't that bad. I mean, hey, why don't we do another dungeon? And look, this one's even got more loot. And hey, the obligatory you made progress in our game bundle is back up to 460%. Until you see that the asking price is now up to $2 USD. I think my frustration with Diablo Immortal is there is a very functional, low-stakes Diablo mobile game somewhere in here. God knows that Blizzard's not the only ones trying to cash in on that market, but after 3 hours, it's been a constant barrage of, Here's the coolio Diablo gameplay, and here's my hand subtly trying to grab your wallet. 2 hours and 30 minutes in, I get introduced to the familiar summoning system with a skip animation button telling me all I need to know. Of course, there's a weekly limit to how many contracts you can obtain with your earnable gold, but with just a tiny bit of sleuthing around, I find that, of course, you can nab a cool 10 extra contracts in this $50 bundle. There's also a market board where you can trade with other players, but only using the currency of platinum, which must be initially purchased. With eternal orbs? I'm not really sure why they felt the need to do this one step of translation. The eternal orb prices are literally right there. Kill yet another really interesting boss, this spider with the multiple legs, and after turning down the now $5 bundle, I spot a first one's free draw for this cosmetic set, meaning I at least can get in on the fun. But remember how I said we'd circle back to crests? Well, when the game inevitably brings you back to the crest area, now around the 3-hour mark, I noticed something I missed the first time around. The game gives you a bunch of rare crests, and it already gave me the one legendary crest earlier, but what about these eternal legendary crests? The only difference I could spot were that these offer unbound gems with the little market symbol, so you get the hint, and they have a much more brazen buy more listed below. And with a price tag of 1,600 eternal orbs for 10, or about 25, yeah, okay, this game is undefendable. But hey, at least I look... Nah, I look pretty whack too. If you want to see even more questionable mobile games, leave a like, and maybe watch my experiences with other titles.